Live from New Delhi, you're watching Didi India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina pronounced guilty in 5 cases by a Dhaka court. Agitation in different parts of the city. Several Indian Umrah pilgrims feared dead in a tragic bus accident near Medina in Saudi Arabia. India's consulate in Jeddah sets up a 24/7 control room. Prime Minister Modi expresses condolences and assures full support. Patiala House Court sends Delhi car blast accused Amir Rashid to National Investigation Agency's 10-day custody. And US President Donald Trump reverses stance on release of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's files, urges Republicans in Congress to vote for the release of the files. A judge in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, read out the verdict in the Crimes Against Humanity trial of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The former leader is being tried in absentia. The judges are reading out transcripts of the ousted Prime Minister's phone calls with different ministers and officers in July and August last year. The tribunal's judgment runs to 453 pages. She has been convicted in 5 cases, mostly based on the phone calls. Following the hearings, agitation in different parts of Dhaka and Bangladesh as a whole has been reported. Security has been tightened outside the court as the verdict is still in progress. Hasina, former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal, and ex-police chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al-Mamoon were charged under the International Crimes Tribunal Act. However, her party, the Bangladesh Awami League, has rejected the reforms promised by the interim government led by Mohammad Yunus and has called to rise against the ongoing anarchy. Earlier, ahead of the verdict, the Awami League announced a nationwide shutdown. The party also alleged Yunus-led government of using false cases, violent attacks and arrests and repression to achieve its political goal. DD India's Naval Sangh Parmar joins us from Dhaka on the phone line. Naval Sangh, what are the details emerging of this special tribunal's verdict against Sheikh Hasina?
Just now the verdict reading out is in progress, and out of the 5 cases, in all 5 cases, the judge, whatever he had read just now, it seems that a tribunal finds the Sheikh Hasina and her true ally guilty of the atrocity and the crime against humanities. But the final judgment is yet to be announced. They are now reading out the testimony of the witnesses and victims, and some phone calls, recordings, and the other electronic testimony between the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her ministers and the police officials. So final verdict is yet to be announced, but it seems that according to the tribunal's reading of the verdict, the tribunal finds all of 3 co-accused
Okay.
guilty of the...
Okay, Naval Sangh, there were reports of political violence in Dhaka ahead of the verdict. Are there reports of violence now that Sheikh Hasina has been pronounced guilty?
No, there are some incidents of stray incidents of violence, like arson and some of the crude bomb blasts, but there is no any casualty reported yet. There was a crowd moving towards the Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's memorial, Dhanmandi 32, but the army and police officials stopped that crowd. It was moving with the bulldozer, but the army stopped them, and there is a heavy deployment of security forces, including the army, BGP, and rapid action battalion. So still now, no serious unwanted incident has been reported. Some neighboring district of Dhaka, there are some reports of the arson of torching of the vehicles and blocking the highways. But Awami League party of Sheikh Hasina announced for the lockdown yesterday as well as today. So most of the supporters of Awami Leagues are following the guidelines from the party, and they are staying inside their house.
Okay, finally, Naval Singh, by when can we expect details on the punishment granted to Sheikh Hasina?
Detail on punishment, I'm not sure how much time it will take. Today, verdict will come like guilty or not, and detailed punishment may take some few more hours, or today, or may not be today. It will take time also.
Okay.
It is possible.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naval Singh Parmar, reporting from Dhaka. And to put things in perspective now, we have with us Pinak Ranjan Chakrabarti, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Welcome, Pinak Ranjan ji, to DD India Newshour. Up first, would you call Sheikh Hasina's trial held in absentia a fair trial or not?
Well, the tribunal that tried her was established by her earlier, and it had tried the war criminals of 1971. I do not think this is a fair trial, because there is a whole attitude of seeking political revenge against Hasina, and the charges that have been placed against her. I don't think in any other court it would survive for even a day. So I think this is a set-up thing. We all knew the verdict that it's going. I mean, everybody knew that it's going to be, and that she would be pronounced guilty and perhaps even sentenced to death, because that is the objective. This verdict and the sentence was very obvious right from the beginning, because the people who are now in power, they are basically her opponents, who are very angry with her, and of course the students, and clearly those who lost their lives, they are also, angry. So I think all of that has combined together in this case. But I don't think it's really, one can say that it has been a very fair trial.
Okay. Some might say that the verdict of this International Crimes Tribunal, which isn't international, was on the expected lines. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was. I think we all anticipated that that this trial would lead to a guilty verdict, because, as I said, it is a political, politically managed verdict. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. Yes. Okay, Hasina has called the trial a jurisprudential joke and said that she will only return to Bangladesh once participatory democracy is restored. Now that the verdict is only, she has been pronounced guilty, but the punishment is just a few hours away. Is there any likelihood of Hasina returning to Bangladesh?
I doubt it. I don't think she will go back now, because that would be in imprisonment, and if there is a death sentence, they will quickly execute her, because, as I said, the people who have organized this this whole case, and they are politically motivated. They want to kill Hasina, it seems to me, because, for example, the leaders of the Jamaat who were involved in genocide in 1971, she had got them convicted, or at least the tribunal convicted them, and they were hanged. So I think this is what is being, arranged. So it's a highly politicized judgment.
Okay, verdicts by courts are open to appeals, but the law bars Sheikh Hasina from challenging the verdict in the Bangladesh Supreme Court. Your view on that?
Well, as I said, these are all arranged. So I think they have passed certain laws, etc., which will close the door on any appeal. Moreover, the judiciary itself has been, I think, compromised to a large extent. because as you know, that during the agitation, all the Supreme Court judges were made to resign at gunpoint almost. And then there was a massive reshuffle of judiciary where the new regime there managed to obviously put their own supporters. So this was the situation, and this remains the situation. So this is entirely expected, and I don't feel that that anybody anywhere else would call it a free trial.
Okay, supporters of Hasina's Awami League have said that they would block February's national election if a ban on the party was not lifted. Now that Sheikh Hasina has been found guilty, could we see any more serious protests by the Awami League, and could the verdict lead to political instability in Bangladesh?
Oh, this is bound to lead to violence and political instability, because the violence, we have seen the beginning of violence already. There was some violence a few days back when there was a hartal and a bandh called by the Awami League. So I think that is going to go. Violence will certainly increase, and that is why the government has now also given shoot to kill orders on those who are destroying property or anything. So I think violence has always been a very much a integral part of politics in Bangladesh, and so I'm sure it will increase. And I don't know, maybe the Awami League will probably say, don't vote. I mean, boycott the voting. That is a possibility because they have not been allowed to participate. They may not be allowed to participate in the elections. So the elections may also then face a huge question mark about banning the largest party, in Bangladesh. So there are a lot of these questions ahead, and I think the political instability and question marks like this will continue to hover over Bangladesh.
Okay, on a broader level, the Awami League, Sheikh Hasina's party, has accused the Yunus-led government of using false cases, violent attacks, arrests, repression to achieve its political goal. How do you react to these allegations?
Well, I think there have been such. I mean, these allegations are not entirely untrue. I know of people who have been accused of murders and put in jail, and then they have not been given bail. And some of these people, I can't even imagine, they wouldn't hurt a fly. I mean, these are editors and journalists and others who were obviously seen to be either pro-Hasina or anti-Jamaat. So they have been all rounded up and put in jail. Anybody who was seen as inclined towards supporting the Awami League has come under the scanner, and they have been. So this is basically, revenge, of those who were anti-Hasina, and particularly the Jamaat-e-Islami, who basically led much of the agitation, their cadres, and some of the students who are thirsting for revenge, including Professor Yunus, who's had a very sort of bad relations with Hasina for various things, including cases that he had to face on various counts that were filed against him during Hasina's government. So all these factors have combined to create this very toxic situation.
Okay. Mr. Chakrabarti, finally, Bangladesh has been in political turmoil since the end of Hasina's 15-year iron grip on Dhaka. What does the verdict today could mean for Bangladesh politically and socially?
Well, it would mean a period of instability, which we have seen already. And it would mean that that the next elections may be running into problems. And it would mean that if that happens, then this government will stay in power, which is what they want to do, at least some sections want to do. For example, the students, the Jamaat-e-Islami, etc., who want to continue with this government because they are enjoying power without the people's mandate. Now, if they don't go for the elections, then I think Bangladesh is in for undemocratic rule for some time.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much, Pinak Ranjan Chakrabarti ji, for being with us. Yes, a punishment verdict is still being read out. Let's see what comes out from that story. Thank you for being with us. Still to come on DD India Newshour. New Zealand's Trade Minister Todd McLeay is in Mumbai for a series of high-level bilateral engagements. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to meet his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow today.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Thank you for staying with us on DD India Newshour. I am Tanvit Taneja. Sad news coming from Saudi Arabia's Medina. Several Umrah pilgrims from India are feared dead after a bus travelling from Makkah to Medina collided with a diesel tanker early Monday. Some of them were reportedly from India's southern city of Hyderabad. Telangana Chief Minister Revant Reddy expressed shock and set up a control room for assistance. The Chief Minister has directed State Chief Secretary and Telangana DGP to immediately gather details of the victims and confirm how many were from Telangana. He also instructed officials to coordinate with the Ministry of External Affairs and the Saudi Embassy for urgent relief measures. The number of the control room at the State Secretariat are on your screens. They are 91799979, 59754 and 919912919545. So in view of the tragic bus accident, a 24/7 control room has been set up in Consulate General of India, Jeddah. The contact details of the helpline number are 800-244-0003 and 01226140093. 01266142276, and for WhatsApp inquiries you could send a text to 05561222301. Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan has expressed condolences on the tragic road accident near Medina. Talking to social media platform X, Vice President said, and I quote him here, deeply pained by the tragic road accident near Medina, Saudi Arabia, involving Indian nationals. My thoughts are with the affected families during this difficult time. Heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families and prayers for the speedy recovery of the injured. Unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed grief on the loss of lives in Medina incident. Taking to social media platform X, Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote him here, deeply saddened by the accident in Medina involving Indian nationals. My thoughts are with the families who've lost their loved ones. I pray for the swift recovery of all those injured. Our embassy in Riyadh and consulate in Jeddah are providing all possible assistance. Our officials are also in close contact with the Saudi Arabian authorities. Earlier, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also expressed deep shock over the incident. In a social media post, he said that our embassy in Riyadh and consulate in Jeddah are giving fullest support to the Indian nationals and families affected by this accident. Sincere condolences to the bereaved families. Pray for the speedy recovery of those injured. Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju also expressed shock over the accident. In a social media post, Rijiju said, and I quote, I'm shocked and deeply saddened by the tragic bus accident on the Medina-Mecca highway in Saudi Arabia that claimed the lives of Indian pilgrims. We are in touch with our embassy officials who are gathering more details and extending all possible assistance. My heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families. Prayers for strength in this difficult time. In the New Delhi terror blast case, the accused Amir Rashid Ali, who was arrested by the National Investigation Agency on Sunday, was brought to Patiala House Court in New Delhi today. According to the agency, Kashmiri resident Amir Rashid was reportedly involved in conspiring with the alleged suicide bomber Omar Nabi to carry out the terror attack, which claimed 10 innocent lives and left around 25 injured. The NIA, National Investigation Agency, has examined 73 witnesses so far, including those injured in the blast. And in the latest, the Patiala House Court has sent accused Amir Rashid Ali to 10-day custody of the NIA. The agency said that it is pursuing multiple leads to unearth the larger conspiracy behind the bombing and identify others involved in the case. So, the National Investigation Agency granted a 10-day custody of the Delhi blast suicide bomber's aide Amir Rashid by the Patiala House Court in New Delhi. Strengthening momentum towards a comprehensive free trade agreement, New Zealand's Minister for Trade and Investment Todd McLay arrived in Mumbai on Monday for a series of high-level bilateral engagements with Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. McLay's visit comes shortly after Minister Goyal's successful trip to New Zealand, where the fourth round of India-New Zealand FTA negotiations concluded on a positive note. Both sides expressed renewed optimism about advancing talks aimed at boosting trade, investment and economic cooperation. The day began with McLay serving as the chief guest at the inauguration of a cricket tournament in Mumbai, an event symbolic of the shared passion for the sport between India and New Zealand. Speaking at the event, Minister Piyush Goyal said that both nations are working to create a framework in investment, tourism and sports.
It is well known as a sporting nation. Sports and tourism go hand in hand. And Minister Todd and I have been discussing how we can promote sports in both countries.
Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal urged the plastics industry to take a decisive leap towards ensuring 100% reuse and recycling of plastics, in line with India's national sustainability goals and growing global demand for circular and environmentally responsible products. He was addressing the Export Excellence Award ceremony and Platinum Jubilee celebrations of Plex Council in Mumbai on Sunday. Piyush Goyal emphasized that India has the capacity and capability to emerge as a world leader in sustainable plastics manufacturing. He also called upon the industry to invest in advanced technologies, innovative materials and responsible production practices that reflect India's commitment to a greener and more sustainable future. The minister presented 148 Export Excellence Awards to distinguished exporters for their achievements during 2023-24 and 2024-25 fiscal. Home Minister Amit Shah attended and chaired the Northern Zonal Council meeting in Faridabad. The meeting began on a somber note as a moment of silence was observed for the victims of the Delhi Red Fort blast. Chief Ministers of Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and Rajasthan, as well as Lieutenant Governors and the Administrator of Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh and Chandigarh were in attendance. Senior officials from the centre, state governments and union territories were also in attendance. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will meet his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Monday to discuss a range of key bilateral and international issues. Jaishankar is visiting Moscow for the two-day SCO Heads of State Council meeting beginning today. During the visit, Jaishankar is also expected to virtually inaugurate new Indian consulates in Kazan and Ekaterinburg, key emerging hubs for technology and strategic cooperation. The engagement precedes President Vladimir Putin's anticipated visit to India in early December for the annual summit between Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army, General Upendra Dwivedi, attended the Chanakya Defence Dialogue in New Delhi. Speaking at the event, General Dwivedi talked about Operation Sindoor and India's new stance on terrorism.
पानी और खून एक साथ नहीं बह सकता. Blood and water can't flow together. Talks and terror can't be together. यानी बातचीत, संवाद और आतंकवाद एक साथ नहीं चल सकता है. तो हम तो सिर्फ यही बोल रहे हैं कि आप शांति की प्रक्रिया अपनाइए, हम भी उसका साथ देंगे. जब तक ये नहीं होगा तब जो आतंकवादी हैं या उनके आका हैं वो हमारे लिए समान मान है. दूसरी चीज़ ये है, जो भी आतंकवादी को बढ़ावा देगा हम उसको जवाब देंगे. और हमारे पास अगर बैरंग चिट्ठी भी आई तो भी हमें पता है कि जवाब किसको देना है, हमें उसकी चिंता नहीं है. और जहाँ तीसरी बात है कि जहाँ तक आप ब्लैकमेल करना चाहते हैं हमें किसी चीज़ के लिए, मेरे ख्याल से भारत अभी इतना संपन्न है कि हम किसी ब्लैकमेल से डरने वाले नहीं हैं.
The Chief of Army Staff also talked about the India-China relationship, highlighting the positive trajectory in the engagements on the border situation.
अक्टूबर 2024 से लेके आज की तारीख तक हमारे रिश्तों में काफ़ी सुधार आया है. सुधार इसलिए आया है क्योंकि जो हमारे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स हैं उनके बीच काफ़ी बातचीत हुई और दोनों का ये संशय रहा कि हम किसी तरह वहाँ पे जितनी नॉर्मेल्सी ले आएंगे उससे हम दोनों देशों का फ़ायदा है. आप देखिए 21 अक्टूबर पिछले साल जब हमारे ईस्टर्न लद्दाख में जो समझौता हुआ था LAC के ऊपर, उससे कितना फ़ायदा हुआ. कज़ान में इसलिए 24 तारीख को जो दोनों की मुलाकात हुई हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर की और प्रेसिडेंट शी जिनपिंग की, वो पिछले साल अक्टूबर में हुई. और देखिए इस बार जो हमारी सितंबर में हुई जब ये यहाँ गए थे अपनी SCO मीटिंग के लिए गए थे, तो इसमें भी बातचीत यही हुई कि सबसे पहले हमें डायलॉग करना चाहिए, यानी बातचीत करनी चाहिए और हमें कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन ढूंढना है, यानी कोई हल ढूंढना है कि ये जो संघर्ष हमारा हुआ है इसका क्या हल मिल सकता है. तो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ ये हो रही है कि जो हम लोगों का जो सोल्यूशंस है वो हम ग्राउंड पे ढूंढ रहे हैं. उससे क्या हुआ है कि दोनों साइड पे एक लचीलापन आ रहा है बातचीत करने में. दोनों साइड को चूँकि ऊपर की तरफ से भी डायरेक्शंस हैं कि भाई बातचीत में जितना सॉल्व कर सकते हो, जितना आप सोल्यूशन ढूंढ सकते हो उतना ढूंढने की कोशिश करो. तो उदाहरण के तौर पे मान लीजिए उन्होंने कुछ कंस्ट्रक्शन करना है, कोई भी ऐसी कार्रवाई करनी तो हमको पहले बताते हैं. पहले क्या होता था, वो नहीं बताते थे, हम दोनों में किसी प्रकार की बातचीत हो जाती थी, गर्मा गर्मी हो जाती. आजकल वो नहीं होता है. कुछ बनाया भी हमने उनको बोला कि कृपया इसको हटाइए, ये उचित नहीं है, उसी टाइम हटा लेते हैं. तो ये कहना चाहिए जो ग्राउंड का कॉपरेशन है वो बहुत अच्छा है. अभी जैसे हम बात करें कि डिसएंगेजमेंट काफ़ी तक हो गया है. उसके बाद जब बाउंड्री लिमिटेशन और जो बाकी बातें करेंगे तो उसमें क्या होगा, हमें बहुत फ़ायदा होगा आगे आने वाले दिनों में.
The Indian Air Force is participating in the 8th edition of the bilateral air exercise Garud 25 in France from Sunday till 27th of November. The Indian Air Force is conducting this exercise with the French Air and Space Force till 27th of November. The exercise aims to refine tactics and procedures in a realistic operational environment. It also provides an opportunity for professional interaction, exchange of operational knowledge and sharing of best practices between the two air forces. During the exercise, Indian Air Force's Su-30 Mark I aircraft operates alongside the French multi-role fighters in complex simulated air combat scenarios, focusing on air-to-air combat, air defense and joint strike operations. And now let's take a look at other stories making news in India. The 2-month-long Sabrimala pilgrimage officially began on Monday, the first day of the Malayalam month of Vrichikam. The Sabrimala Ayyappa temple opened on Sunday evening ahead of the Mandalam Makara Vilakku pilgrimage season, which is set to draw devotees from around the globe. Bus employees in Punjab have launched an indefinite strike opposing the kilometre-based payment scheme, warning that they will march to the Chief Minister's residence if their demands are not met. The strike has disrupted services as unions push for withdrawal of the scheme and improved working conditions. And in news just coming in, a tribunal in Bangladesh has sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death penalty over a deadly crackdown on anti-government protests last year. Hasina, who was convicted for various crimes against humanity, was tried in her absence. Hasina Former Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal and ex-police chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al Mamoon were charged under the International Crimes Tribunal Act. Her party, Bangladesh Awami League, has rejected these reforms promised by the interim government and has also called to rise against the ongoing anarchy. So Sheikh Hasina and her top two aides accused of orchestrating mass killings of protesters in Dhaka during the student protests, and the former Prime Minister being sentenced to death here for crimes against humanity. And let's go over to Jessica Taneja, who is giving us more information on this death penalty. Jessica, again, coming on expected lines, the verdict and the death sentence there.
That's correct. It is an expected lines, and this in fact ended a month-long trial, and wherein she had ordered. It was against the fact that she had ordered crackdown on the student-led protest you saw last year related to the quotas that she had brought. Created that kind of environment where students were extremely dissatisfied, and that led to her ouster, thereby introducing an interim chief of to continue and to be able to hold the country together in terms of this political turmoil. And what after we've seen the kind of situation unfold in Bangladesh, this certainly, as you said, was on expected lines. But what happens after remains to be seen. What we do gather right now from various reports says that Dhaka remains tense even on the weekend, and where we heard there were several cheese bombs that exploded just hours before the special tribunal was to deliver that verdict. The situation remains a little grim in the capital, as this is a very heated and a very difficult movement for the public sentiments, and as well as what the people have been protesting, especially the students there, with Mohammed Yunus now in charge of the government. And certainly at a time when Bangladesh's Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal, the ICTBD, which has now delivered this verdict, is going to go a way where we see that there will be some kind of response expected, but nothing has been seen so far from Sheikh Hasina's son.
Okay, Jessica, I'll request you to stay with us, as now we have on the line Naval Singh Parmar from Dhaka. Naval Singh, if you could spell out more details on the punishment granted to Sheikh Hasina. Is it only death, or is it something else also?
Actually, out of 3 charges in which Sheikh Hasina was accused, 2 charges, there were a death sentence granted to the Sheikh Hasina, and as well as Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal, the former Home Minister of Bangladesh. He also got a death sentence from the ICT in the crime against humanity case, and ex-police chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al Mamoon, who became state witness after that, he got 5-year imprisonment punishment. So this is the latest update. And
has any reaction come from the Awami League or from Sheikh Hasina's spokesperson? No one close to Sheikh Hasina nowadays in Bangladesh. Most of them are in exile or underground, and there may be a reaction from her spokesperson, or she may herself give some reaction to the development, as well as the Awami League party may issue some statement, but it will come on social media or through virtually, because these people are not now in Bangladesh. Okay, there are multiple reports coming of violence already erupting in different parts of Dhaka. What are the details on that?
Before the announcement of verdict, there were sporadic incidents of arson and the gunshot and crude bomb busting. But more or less, the city of Dhaka and its nearby districts are under tight security, and police and army BJP presence is very high, and as well as the Awami League party declared Bandh lockdown for the 2 days, yesterday as well as today. So Awami League supporters were inside their homes, and common people also, out of fear of police harassment or some unwanted incidents may happen. So common people are also not on the streets. So streets and roads of Dhaka are sparse movements of the people and commuters. But after the verdict, since the Sheikh Hasina and her party is quite popular political party in Bangladesh, and still, though it is a ban, but they have a huge support base in Bangladesh. So their supporter or well-wisher, karyakartas, they may come on street, or there may be some sort of protest or march kind of thing, and police or the law enforcement agency, as they already have been ordered to open fire if they found them doing violence, arson, or any kind of crude bomb busting. So there are possibility that some sort of action and reaction from the police and the Awami League supporters may be seen on the ground. The situation is very tense. Law and order is also very fragile now in Bangladesh. Let's see what happens.
Okay, Naval Sangh, once again, for the benefit of our viewers, out of the 5 charges, Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to death for one of those cases, which is incitement of violence in order to kill and inaction to prevent atrocities. Is that correct?
2 charges out of 3 committed during July mass uprising, in which Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced for the death penalty.
And for the third one, she's been given life sentence.
I'm going through the media reports, but yeah, I'm not sure what is the verdict in the third charge. But in 2 out of 3, she has been granted death sentences.
Okay, 2 out of 3, she has been given death sentence. Thank you very much, Naval Sangh Parmar, for all those details emerging out of Sheikh Hasina's court verdict. Moving on now. US President Donald Trump has hinted at holding discussions with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, who has been in crosshairs of a US military buildup in the Caribbean. Trump offered no further details about the possibility of talks, though he suggested he would keep up the pressure on the Maduro regime. The Venezuelan Communications Ministry, however, did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk. Venezuela would like to talk. What does it mean? You tell me. I don't know. You want to talk to them? I talk to anybody. I talk to you, right? I talk to anybody. We'll see what happens.
The news of possible discussions between the US and Venezuela come as Washington formally designated what it says is a cartel run by Venezuelan president as a foreign terrorist organization. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the decision on Sunday, saying the cartel de los Soles works alongside other designated FTOs and is responsible for widespread violence and drug trafficking in the region. US officials say the designation comes amid a major American military buildup in the Caribbean, including the deployment of USS Gerald Ford Career Strike Group as part of Operation Southern Spear. Washington says the buildup is needed to counter smuggling networks. Caracas claims the move is part of a plot to topple President Maduro, an accusation US rejects. Rubio reiterated long-standing US allegations that Maduro and senior Venezuelan officials led the organization, asserting that they have corrupted key state institutions. Since the US launched its anti-trafficking campaign in September, at least 83 people accused of moving drugs in international waters have been killed, including 3 in a strike in the Eastern Pacific. Now, what's interesting is that the US has not provided evidence that those targeted were traffickers, and experts warn that the killings may constitute extrajudicial actions. Meanwhile, the Pentagon announced another attack on an alleged drug trafficking vessel in the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. Southern Command has described the vessel as being operated by a designated terrorist organization and was transporting narcotics along a well-known trafficking route in international waters. 3 men characterized by officials as narco-terrorists were killed in the operation. The 21st known attack on drug boats by the U.S. military since early September was carried out under an order attributed to U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. More news from the United States. President Donald Trump on Sunday urged his fellow Republicans in the Congress to vote for the release of Epstein files, reversing his earlier resistance to such a move. Trump's post on his Truth Social came after House Speaker Mike Johnson said earlier that he believed a vote on releasing Justice Department documents in the Epstein case should help put to rest allegations that Trump had any connection to Epstein's abuse and trafficking of underage girls. Trump late on Friday withdrew his support for Marjorie Taylor Greene, a U.S. House Representatives member from Georgia, following her criticism of Republicans on certain issues, including the handling of the Epstein files. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a U.S. House Representatives member from Georgia, has accused Democrats of pushing an Epstein hoax after emails emerged in which the disgraced financier suggested Trump knew about the girls. Greene said earlier that Trump's online criticism had unleashed a surge of threats directed at her. She attributed her split with the president to her support for releasing records related to the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The UN Security Council is due to vote on Monday on a resolution endorsing U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan. Last week, the Americans officially launched negotiations within the 15-member Security Council on a text that would follow up on a ceasefire in the 2-year conflict between Israel and Hamas and endorse Trump's plan. A draft of the resolution welcomes the establishment of the Board of Peace, a transitional governing body for Gaza that Trump would theoretically chair with a mandate running until the end of 2027. It would authorize member states to form a temporary international stabilization force that would work with Israel and Egypt and newly trained Palestinian police to help secure border areas and demilitarize the Gaza Strip. The United States and several Arab and Muslim majority nations, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, called the UN Security Council to quickly adopt the resolution. On to Europe. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in Paris in a new bid to secure weaponry against Russian missile and drone attacks. Zelenskyy's visit is part of a brief tour of his Western allies that saw him seal an energy deal with Greece on Sunday and will include a visit to Spain on Tuesday. The Ukrainian leader said that a major deal with France will be announced soon, but it was not known if that would be finalized in his talks with President Emmanuel Macron. Zelenskyy and Macron will then go on to a forum at the Elysee Palace on joint production of drones. Zelenskyy's 9th visit to France since the conflict in 2022 comes as his government battles a new corruption scandal, this time involving its energy firms. Pope Leo XIV of the Vatican decried poverty, urging world leaders and Catholics to reach out to the marginalized people as the church celebrated a jubilee of the poor. As he led the Angelus at noon on Sunday, Pope Leo launched a heartfelt appeal for people who endure the horrors of violence and war. Pope Leo lamented discrimination and persecution of Christians in various parts of the world, condemning attacks on places of worship. He said that he thinks in countries like Bangladesh, Nigeria, Mozambique, Sudan and other countries from which frequent attacks happen on communities and places of worship. He added that God is a merciful Father who desires peace among all his children. He urged people to pray that all violence may cease and that believers may work together for common good. And on to COP30 updates now. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Monday that Australia would not co-host the COP31 climate summit with Turkey amid an ongoing stalemate between the two countries. During a media briefing in Melbourne, Albanese said that they won't be co-hosting because co-hosting isn't provided for under the rules of the UNFCCC. Australia and Turkey both submitted bids in 2022 to host COP31 and neither has withdrawn, leading to an attention-sapping impasse that must be overcome at this year's COP30 meeting, currently taking place in Belém, Brazil.
No, we won't be co-hosting because co-hosting isn't provided for under the rules of the UNFCCC. So that's not an option. And people are aware that that's not an option, which is why it's been ruled out.
Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change Bhupender Yadav arrived in Belém, Brazil this morning to participate in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP30. In a social media post, Bhupender Yadav said that over the next few days he will be participating in climate change negotiations and putting forward India's view on matters related to adaptation, climate finance and other critical issues. Still to come on DD India Newshour. India signs first ever LPG import deal with the US to boost energy security. Targets close to 10% of annual imports for the year 2026. And Hollywood stars Tom Cruise and Dolly Parton receive honorary Oscars for lifetime achievements.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
That's exactly what saved your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Tanvi Taneja. In a major step towards strengthening India's energy security, India's Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, on Monday announced that Indian public sector oil companies have for the first time signed a one-year deal to import liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, from the United States. The minister shared the development through a social media post on Monday, calling it a historic first for the country's LPG market. He stated, in a significant development, Indian PSU oil companies have successfully concluded a one-year deal for imports of around 2.2 MTPA LPG, close to 10% of the annual imports for the contract year 2026, to be sourced from the US Gulf Coast, the first structured contract of the US LPG for the Indian market. The minister also highlighted the government's commitment to provide LPG at the lowest global prices to all our mothers and sisters. He added that even as global prices soared by over 60% last year, Modi ji ensured that Ujjwala consumers continued to receive LPG cylinder at just 500 to 550 rupees, whereas the actual cost of the cylinder was 1100 rupees. The government of India incurred cost of over 40,000 crores last year in order to ensure that nobody feels the burden of rising international LPG prices. Of all the European economies, Germany has long been in the spotlight. Once the engine of Europe, the German economy has been weak for about 3 years now. Now, the government in Berlin has announced some new measures to help bring growth back. Lars Holte is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin on the story. Hi, Lars. How are you? What can you tell us about the government's plans?
Thanks for having me. Well, the timing is interesting for one. Just last week, the German government was roundly criticized by its own Economic Advisory Council. They gave the governing coalition a C- for their handling of the economy. And they warned that we won't see much more growth anytime soon if the government wouldn't step up its game. And now they did indeed. At least 3 ideas are out now. Many of them had been discussed for a while. So here we go. Among the biggest problems for the German economy were high energy prices. They were especially painful for those energy-intense businesses in the steel industry, in chemicals, and in such sectors. Now these energy-intense businesses will get their own price for energy, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. And that's around half of what they used to pay as of late. Now, one problem, the Council of Economic Advisors said just last week that a special discount for these companies is not much more than a band-aid, and that the government should tackle high energy prices on a much broader level. But at least we're seeing a first step here.
Okay, what are the other measures that the government has announced to support the economy, Lars?
Well, the other big one is also addressing energy needs, and it's maybe just a step closer to what the Advisory Council had wanted. Berlin says they will build 8 more gas-powered power plants. Now, this has long been a very controversial topic. Germany has long wanted to get out of fossil energies and rely more on renewables. But as much as there was progress in the development and harvesting of solar and wind energy, it is not always enough, and Germany is often buying additional juice from across the border. Now, they did realize that some new power plants are indeed needed, especially in times when it's dark and wind still, like in a calm night, for example, when alternative energy sources fail. So up to 10 gigawatt hours is what these new plants should bring. They're expected to be on the grid by 2031. But of course, that doesn't really boost the economy today.
All right, thank you very much, Lars Holter, there reporting from DW Berlin. Moving on, Tom Cruise and Dolly Parton, Hollywood stars, are among the people who received honorary Oscars for lifetime achievements at the Governor's Awards held on Sunday. Debbie Allen and production designer Vin Thomas were also chosen by the Academy's Board of Governors for this year's honors. Board member Rita Wilson said the awards recognize a body of work, excellence and philanthropy and service to the industry. Cruise was honored for decades of work across blockbuster films, while Academy President Janet Yang praised his commitment to filmmaking and theatrical storytelling. Dolly Parton received the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award for charitable work, including her Imagination Library, which has donated more than 284 million books. Allen was recognized for her acting and choreography, and Thomas was given the honor for his production design on films ranging from Spike Lee projects to A Beautiful Mind.
Tom has done so many movies. That puts a lot of us to work because he's a great movie star, and I love the films that he chooses, and he always shows up. It's our chance to say thank you to Dolly Parton for the songs, you know. I know, what's the Mike Nichols where anyway, she's done a lot of songs that have been in films, and they're fabulous.
All right, you're watching DD India News. Time now for some sporting action. Well, India's Test captain Shubman Gill has been discharged from the hospital where he was receiving treatment for neck spasm sustained during the first Test against South Africa in Kolkata. He, however, remains in doubt for the second Test in Guwahati, which starts on 22nd of November. India has a training session in Kolkata on Tuesday morning, but Gill is not expected to take part in that. Gill's absence in the 4th innings left India a batter short in their 30-run loss in a low-scoring game. If Gill is unavailable for the next Test, potential replacements are left-handed batters B. Sai Sudarshan and Devdutt Padikkal. IPL franchise Rajasthan Royals confirmed on Monday that Sri Lanka's Kumar Sangakkara has been reappointed as the team's head coach ahead of the 2026 season, following the exit of Rahul Dravid from the role. Dravid had left the franchise in August this year, and Sangakkara, who has been the franchise's director of cricket, will be returning as the head coach, having served in the same role from 2021 to 2024. Dravid parted ways with the franchise after the Royals finished second last. Their worst performance in 5 years in the IPL. Under Sangakkara, Rajasthan Royals reached the IPL final in 2022 and made the playoffs in IPL 2024. Tourists from Japan and around the world are crowding into Fujikawa Guchiko, soaking in the stunning autumn colors at the foot of Mount Fuji. The lakeside paths, the clear mountain views are giving visitors the perfect fall experience. As the season reaches its peak, the town is buzzing with travelers, capturing one of Japan's most iconic sights in all its autumn glory. Autumn is a second spring where every leaf is a flower, said Albert Camus. On that thought, we wind up this edition of DD India Newshour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.